أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. And to establish them on earth, and to give Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops a taste of the suffering they had inflicted upon others. This verse has to do with God supporting the oppressed. This is a divine law that we see in verse 5. Just before that, so God helps the oppressed. We will to make it up to those who were oppressed on earth, and to turn them into dignified people and make them the inheritors, and to establish them on earth, and to give Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops a taste of the suffering they had inflicted upon others. They were enslaving the children of Israel. Now you remember Joseph. Joseph was picked up from the well, taken to Egypt. Eventually he became the treasurer, and he was the man in charge of all the food for the whole world, actually, because the whole world was in the Middle East, excluding China, that area. But that was the most active area in the world, and people were coming to him from everywhere, including his own family, as you remember. And then he played that trick where they put the king's cup in his brother's goods. He kept his small brother, and then finally he told them who he was and asked them to bring his family to Egypt. That was in Joseph's time. So now his family was who? Was his father Israel, and his mother, and his 11 brothers. And that was the beginning of the children of Israel in Egypt. So they came, they were dignified, and he hosted his family in the mansion. He was a very important fellow in Egypt. Now this history in this surah is 400 years after Joseph, and the children of Israel had multiplied, and they became slaves of the Egyptians. They looked different. Just by virtue of their look and their race, the Egyptians became racist and used them as slaves, built the pyramids, do the hard work. So God feels for the oppressed and makes it up to them. It's just a quick glance at the history of Israel, the children of Israel. And it actually reflects the greatness of the Quran, because there are many such complicated stories in the Quran, and they flow perfectly without a flaw, of course. And I really appreciate this, because I tried to write the story of the Quran, starting with a spaceship that had 6 astronauts and 3 robots, just 9 figures. And they were supposed to fly at the speed of light, and fasten the speed of light, and witness things. And I was putting the story of the Quran in this way. But I could not keep track of the 6 people and 3 robots. I had the toughest time keeping track of who is who, who is whom, and which robot does what. Because I just had a control room, and everyone had a duty to do. 6 humans and 3 robots. Did I say 9 humans? 6? See, I can't even keep track of the number now. 6 humans. When this officer is in charge of navigation, and this one is the captain, and this one is that, and this robot does that. I could not keep track of 9 things. 6 humans and 3 robots. And the Quran has hundreds of people, and God keeps track of the Quran keeps track of every one of them without a single mistake. So after all the reviews and everything, if I look back, I see that I mixed the robots, who's doing what, things like that. So these stories are scattered throughout the Quran, but they are perfect. Confidence in God. Number 7, we inspired Moses' mother, nurse him, and when you fear for his life, throw him into the river. Does this make sense? When it comes to God, yes. I interrupted in the middle of the verse because this is one of the most incredible stories, and it must teach us the subtitle, Confidence in God. I mean, how can you fear for your children when you are with God? You don't fear for your children at all. It's a piece of cake, raising children for the believers. And again, God is teaching all of us through my old age and my experience. And God gave me a boy and a girl, so we can have the two kinds. And when they are in God's hand, you don't worry one bit, 1 minute. And you see, God will let you know that they are in His hand, and will let you know that they are protected. If you worry, you're not a strong believer. You're not a good enough believer. If you worry, you don't have confidence in God. Of course, this depends on you. I mean, you better be solidly with God. Then you'll have that confidence, and you'll not worry about your children. You can be out in the street riding a bicycle or something, and what can you do? You can't guard them, but God can. So here, God is telling Moses' mother, if you worry about him, throw him in the river. Have you ever heard of this? You get a basket, put a baby in there. Can you imagine Shahrukh throwing Jafar in the river? Yeah, I mean, just to bring it to our mind. Go ahead, Eddie.
Rashid, what about Moses' son? He became this believer then.
Yes. When he on his own, yeah, after he grew up, they have to make their own decision.
Yes, after a certain age,
yes.
they also
You're not responsible for them.
They are not responsible for that.
Yeah. They make their own decision. I'm tempted here to give an example from my own life also. When I was in charge of Sami until he was 21, let's say 21, and until he got to 21, I took him all the way to the top. I mean, maybe I shouldn't take God. He made it to the major leagues. I mean, the peak of his career is hitting a home run in Dodger Stadium. And on that day, I had a discussion. He's young, of course, and he's entitled to his young ideas. So I think he made a fatal statement where I told him to thank God. In fact, he was playing with the computer here, and the verse that came in front of him, I think he was sitting there, said, "The more you thank me, the more I give you." That was the subject that I told him. I said, thank God for the home run. And some of them were guided while many were wicked. Deterioration of religion. Subsequent to them, we sent our messengers. We sent Jesus, the son of Mary, and we gave him the Injil, and we placed in the hearts of his followers kindness and mercy. But they invented Hermetism, which we never decreed for them. All we asked them to do was to uphold the commandments approved by God, but they did not uphold the message as they should have. Consequently, we gave those who believed among them the recompense, while many of them were wicked. O you who believe, you shall reverence God and believe in his messenger. He will then grant you double the reward from his mercy. Endow you with the light to guide you and forgive you. God is forgiver, most merciful. Thus the followers of previous scriptures should know that they have no monopoly, they have not monopolized God's mercy and grace, and that all grace is in God's hand. He bestows it upon whomever he wills. God is possessor of infinite grace. Yes, the same. الفضل العظيم. Yes, and it is Surah 57. And it just repeats over and over believing in God and his messengers. Very relevant to our time.
Yeah. Why they said that Surah Muhammad 38, but Abraham 52 and Noah 28. None of them is a multiple of 19, but Muhammad and Rashad is a multiple because the time of the Abraham and Noah it was in the Quran with the 12 and 19. the Quran like all over again. Sure.
Not know his children.
These are the
Abdul Aziz Al Saud, huh? And this is in our lifetime, in my lifetime, excuse me. In my lifetime, Abdul Aziz Al Saud did not know his children.
Rashad, maybe yes, how do you say, polygamy is widespread, but I think was not the only man. There were other Muslim men.
Of course. And everyone was doing the same thing.
The difference, the ratio between men and women.
No.
It is 285 multiple women.
Yes, there were. There was a much higher proportion of women than men, because if you have a society of 200 women and 200 men and one woman, you'll still have one baby every year.
Sure.
But it was the other way around.
Not double is okay.
Yeah, no, the proportion of women was much higher, and the lifespan was much longer. And the neighbors used to go to Noah and ask for allowance to take advantage of the fact that he didn't know who they were.
What is Bible?
That's a joke. That's a joke, isn't it?
That's a joke. I'm sure it happened. Here comes a 10-year-old kid. Dad, give me my allowance. Who are you? I'm your son. You sure? Yes. Okay. And he's the neighbor's kid. Anyway, we know about one who went bad, so that's not bad at all. This will not happen to us, inshallah. Because we have, 2, 3. And I'm positive that God will assign to our homes only good souls. This is a whole new era. And we have to keep in perspective what time on earth it was. So that was one of Edip's flies in the oatmeal. Your children are in God's hands. Okay, back to number 7. We inspired Moses' mother, nurse him, and when you fear for his life, throw him into the river without fear or grief. We will return him to you, and we will make him one of the messengers. This is an example of God letting a human being know the future. Throughout the Quran, we know that God picks out whomever He wills to give him future information. And Moses' mother was one of them. Number 8, Pharaoh's family picked him up. I mean, when a basket is flowing in the river, it can land anywhere. The possibility of the basket landing at the Pharaoh's palace is 1 in billion. It just shows you God's control of the minutest detail in the world. Pharaoh's family picked him up only to have him lead the opposition and to be a source of grief for them. That is because Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops were transgressors. Inside the lion's den, Pharaoh's wife said, "This can be a joyous find for me and you. Do not kill him. He may benefit us, or we may adopt him to be our son." They had no idea. So you can see that Pharaoh's wife was a plant. God planted her in the Pharaoh's palace. He assigned that soul to that place at that time just to make this statement: don't kill him. It's okay. The whole life complicated as it is, computerized by God to fit the circumstances, fit in this way. As of course we know that Pharaoh's wife was a fantastic believer. Right? If you look at the end of Surah 66, I think it is 66. Is it 65? Oh, this is 67. Okay, excuse me. Yes, number 11, page 561. And God cites as an example of those who believed the wife of Pharaoh. She said, "My Lord, build a home for me at you in paradise, and save me from Pharaoh and his works. Save me from the transgressing people." So she is one of the top believers, and she was in the home of the worst, just about the worst creature in history, Pharaoh. who said, I am your God. That's how bad he was. But she was one of the top believers, and God planted her there for this particular, one of the reasons. So she said, do not kill him. He may benefit us, or we may adopt him to be our son. They had no idea. The baby obviously looked Hebrew, but God controls the minds and the hearts of everyone, including Pharaoh. The mind of Moses' mother was growing so anxious that she almost gave away his identity. She couldn't stand it anymore. But we strengthened her heart to make her a believer. She said to his sister, trace his path. She watched him from afar, while they did not perceive. The infant returned to his mother. Number 12 says, we forbade him from accepting all the nursing mothers. His sister then said, I can show you a family that can raise him and take good care of him. So his sister was watching from afar, and when she saw the commotion, there's a baby screaming. I mean, he wasn't very popular because Pharaoh's wife is trying to convince her husband to keep him, and he was making a lot of noise, hungry and crying. There was a commotion, and his sister volunteered the information. I can tell you someone will take good care of him. Number 13, thus we restored him. Thus we restored him to his mother. He will not, now here's the hungry baby, he will not nurse from just any woman. What a plot. A divine plot. Thus we restored him to his mother in order to please her, remove her worries, and to let her know that God promises the truth. However, most of them do not know. God's promise is the truth. And God promises you, what we read yesterday, that He'll make you a king or queen on earth if you are with Him. God is the one who runs everything, all the minute details. He's the one who hires and fires and provides, creates. Number 14, when he reached maturity and strength, we endowed him with wisdom and knowledge. We thus reward the righteous. Moses commits manslaughter. Once he entered the city unexpectedly without being recognized by the people. He found two men fighting. One was a Hebrew from his people, and the other was an Egyptian from his enemies. The one from his people called on him for help against his enemy. Moses punched him, killing him. He said, this is the work of the devil. He is an enemy and a profound misleader. Of course, the man who died did not die without God's permission. We have the law in Surah 3. No one dies without God's personal order. The angels do not know when anybody will die. Only God knows and decides. So God computerized it, so this man will die at this moment as Moses punches him. Why? So Moses will leave, will go meet Joshua and marry his daughter and be away from Egypt for a while, and then go back to, in spite of his crime, to go back to Egypt and ask Pharaoh to believe. So you can see God's plan. Something that looks bad, but it's really very good. And this, similarly, Joseph's prison was like a school. He went in a school and he graduated prime minister. It's not bad.
I think this is, Bashar,
Yes.
this incident makes Moses as a hero.
Yes.
And a hero among Beni Israel. They
Exactly.
don't like him.
Exactly.
Because he killed one of the oppressors, right?
Yes.
And this is one of the strong things about him. Also the unappreciation.
Exactly. Exactly. That's also, it's a very good point. Raises Moses as a leader
And they want
among the
all
children
they
of
learn
Israel.
about him.
Yes.
He's a very great man.
Because he left the palace. I mean, he was a prince.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine him coming out of the palace in a chariot and going to the city? He's a prince, full prince. Grew up because the king adopted him, the queen. And he sacrificed all this because of a Hebrew who was fighting with an Egyptian. So it's a very good point. So this is preparation for his leadership. When he goes back and tells them, you come with me, they follow him. He's a hero. The making of a hero. MashaAllah. 16, he said, "My Lord, I have wronged my soul, please forgive me." And he forgave him. He is the forgiver, most merciful. So this will fall under the law, the Quranic law, that you may dislike something when it is good for you, or you may like something which is bad for you. So the moral is, we must submit to God totally, completely. Whatever is happening, we have to accept it. We have to know that it is for your own good. If you're a believer, then whatever is happening is for your own good. 17. I think we've got to stop here because of the workers who are going to work. 7 o'clock. Susan, wake up. Supposed to go have breakfast and run to work. Want to go ahead? Lisa, you want to help her find something in there? Lisa's not working today. You're the only one. We'll see you, inshallah, what, at noon?
I have a one.
For the noon prayer? Great. Have a great morning.
I have a one.
Yes, I know. Let's read 17. He said, "My Lord, in return for your blessings upon me, I will never be a supporter of the guilty ones." In the morning, he was in the city, afraid and watchful. He didn't know if his crime has been exposed or not. The one who sought his help the day before is a troublemaker, and he asked him for help again. Moses said to him, "You are really a troublemaker." There he was fighting again with an Egyptian. And his name was Wakili. Moses' crime exposed. Number 19. We know somebody called Wakili, and he fights with anything that comes in his way. Yes. God shows us examples of everything. Moses' crime exposed. Number 19. Before he attempted to strike their common enemy, he said, "Oh Moses, do you want to kill me like you killed the other man yesterday? Obviously you wish to be a tyrant on earth. You do not wish to be righteous." So this tells us that now everybody knows that he killed an Egyptian. A man came running from the other side of the city saying, "Oh Moses, the people are plotting to kill you. You better leave immediately. I'm giving you good advice." He fled the city, afraid and watchful. He said, "My Lord, save me from the oppressive people." Of course, we know the rest of this. This led to his marriage and his return to Egypt as a hero with God's message. Alhamdulillah.
Did
Yeah,
he
yeah.
accuse him as an accident, or he
It was an accident.
angry and
It was an accident, yeah. Actually, he didn't kill him, God killed him. Everything was timed that way. But we know about Moses, he was hot-tempered and he was physically very strong.
I think the whole thing was done teaching with God's plan.
Exactly. When we look at this is a simple history, but there are so many lessons that we learn from it. There's God's power illustrated in every sentence. Behruz, you're here.
Yes, sir.
You're home.
Yes.
MashaAllah. Very much shaking our head because we lost this guy. I mean, it's too sad.
Aren't you glad you guys?
You're home.
We will come and visit him now. There's one more reason for them to come and visit Tucson.
Last week, we were talking about the children of Israel. These people must be very different with other creatures in the world because of the miracles that God showed. And even Moses was the only prophet actually wanted to see God. You know, like everybody in that time, they were asking for more miracles. 9 miracles they had. And even Moses wanted to see God himself. I mean,
But it happened because he was speaking with God,
right.
and it's a natural curiosity in that situation. Because suppose I'm speaking to you and you're invisible, and then I will want to see you.
Normal nature.
Yes. So it was in the conversation. But the children of Israel wanted to see God, but it was a totally different issue. It was out of defiance. They said, "We will not believe unless we see God physically," they said. But the situation with Moses was different.
They were challenging. Moses only wanted.
Moses was in the conversation. He said, "My Lord, let me see you. Rabbi arini andur ilay. My Lord, let me look at you and see you."
So it was not because of this kind of nation that they wouldn't believe. They
Right.
wanted more miracles and more miracles.
Right. That was the ultimate defiance. That's what they did.
But Ustad, that time, there are about 70 people around him. He took them to
No.
the second.
That's different.
Also,
The 70 men went to apologize. This was back in the camp. They were all in Sinai, and they told they will not believe unless we see God physically. So they died because God showed them a little bit, and they died. Then God revived them. One of the incidents in the Quran where God revived the dead. But with Moses, this was done actually, it was computerized to teach us that this earth cannot stand the presence of God. Because God wiped out the mountain. It was a fact. I mean, God manifested himself to the mountain, and the mountain shattered. And Moses fell unconscious, and then when he came to, the first thing he said, Subhanak, glory be to you. I apologize, sorry. I'm ignorant.
His intention was like Abraham, that he
Exactly.
he believed them.
Exactly. I mean, there's no more belief than that. He's actually speaking with God. But it was just in the course of conversation that he did that.
Just a natural belief.
Exactly.
Speak every day with him, and one day say, why did you speak?
Exactly. Please stay where you are. I'll be back in 1 minute. Those who believed in God and His messengers are the saints and martyrs.
Did you say 504? 504? 504.
Wow, 540. The page number is 540.
Wow.
7. 57:19.
Yes.
Wow.
This is quite a statement.
Wow.
Yes. And it's quite a statement here. It says, those who believe in God and His messengers are the saints and martyrs. And all of a sudden it fits with the new information that we got, that the righteous go straight to heaven, they do not die. Remember the verse that says, do not say about the martyrs that they are dead? Wow. So martyrs are not only the people who die in battle, fighting. People who die believing in God and His messengers are the saints and the martyrs. Reserved for them at their Lord are their rewards and their life. As for those who disbelieved and rejected our revelations, they have incurred hell. Preoccupation with this life condemned. Know that this worldly life is no more than play and games and boasting among you and hoarding of money and children. It is like abundant rain that produces plants and pleases the disbelievers. But then the plants turn into useless hay and are blown away by the wind. In the hereafter, there is either severe retribution or forgiveness from God and approval. This worldly life is no more than a temporary illusion. The intelligent alternative. Therefore, you shall race toward forgiveness from your Lord and a paradise whose width encompasses the heaven and the earth. It awaits those who believed in God and His messengers. See, this fits with the first line that we read. The same paradise where Adam and Eve lived. It awaits every righteous person when he or she departs from this world. To me, this is very exciting news, and we were very excited when that happened. I was so excited that in the same day I printed that page that you got in the mail, and I mailed it. You get 2 of them? I sent one to your house and one to Batul. You're the only one I sent 2 copies to. I figure that if you get the 2 of them, you can always pass it on to somebody else. But I immediately typed it and sent it, and of course that was crucial because I don't know if Mrs. Amir Ali knows this or not, but my mother passed away 10 days after that. Right after that, it was fantastic news. It's like God was telling me, assuring me, because I knew all along that she was a believer. So when she passed away, and they were dreading telling me on the other end of the line, I said, wow, alhamdulillah, mashallah. What's wrong with him? Yes.
They depart, but they are in a better place.
Exactly. Like she went to a wonderful vacation in Hawaii or something, and she's waiting for us until we get there. So, but these verses came immediately after that to confirm. And I'm telling you, it's wonderful because I experienced it. You know, I know exactly how it feels. Because obviously, this is where I went when I met all the prophets. This is where I went. I just called Parivash in my office to listen to some Quran by Sheikh Al-Banna, my favorite reciter, and of course she cried. You know. So, yeah, because it was beautiful mainly, not just because she's a good believer. But this is what I was doing when I experienced that. Let me call it righteous death, which is not death. I was listening to Sheikh Al-Banna. You were listening to it. Now, what condition were you in? You were listening to Al-Banna. When you were listening to Al-Banna now, what condition were you in as you were listening to Sheikh Al-Banna in there? When I called you in to listen to the Quran, what condition were you in? How did you feel?
Wow, great.
Right.
More than
It's a state of ecstasy, you know. And this is how I felt when all of a sudden I was up there. This is exactly equivalent to the death of the righteous. Yeah. No, I was not. I will not sleep when Sheikh Al-Banna is recited. You know, you see, God taught me a few things through that experience. First of all, I'm a person who does not know what I ate yesterday, or even what day was it yesterday. What day is it today? See, we're related. Tuesday. But it's very difficult for me to remember what I did last Thursday, or what date it was, things like that. I'm very bad with remembering dates. But God did it in such a way that I know the day, the date, the time, and that I was awake. Because I will never sleep when Sheikh Al-Banna is doing. He reads only for half hour, 6 o'clock in the morning every Tuesday. All his life, this is what he did. All the other reciters in Egypt, the time slot changed, but not Sheikh Al-Banna. He only read 6 o'clock in the morning every Tuesday from Cairo Radio.
So this was on the
So you were listening
Yes.
to the radio while you were listening to the radio.
Yes, I was.
I thought you were reciting it.
No, I was listening. So after we prayed Fajr in the Kaaba, then I came with my parents, and then I tuned into Cairo. So I know the time, it was 6 in the morning. To Sheikh Al-Banna, so I never go to sleep. And it was, he was reading Surah Al-Rahman.
Yeah.
So I was in a state of ecstasy. And my brother was recording it. At that very moment, my brother Asif was recording it in Egypt.
Wow.
And so I have a record of it.
How long did it take?
I didn't miss it. Because when I came back, I knew that Asif recorded it.
You know the date and the year because
I know the date, when the day was Tuesday. I know the date was December 21st because my parents and myself we spent only one Tuesday in Mecca. And it was December 21st. And I know it was Dhul Hijjah 3. So, I mean, I know the lunar date, the solar date, the time.
1971.
Yes, it was December 21, 1971.
I thought we were there in 71, but we were in Ramadan, and I thought it was somewhere in November, but I don't think it could be November.
No, November was the Feb.
No, we
The
did
Hijjah was in
Laylatul
December.
Qadr in Medina. We were there,
Mhm.
27th of Ramadan. Well, it could be somewhere in October, maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, if it's Ramadan, then it was October. Yes.
Next December.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Of course, December 21 was Dhul Hijjah 3.
That was October.
So it could have been the beginning of November. Yes.
How many Earth minutes went by?
Because it was the end of December, but the beginning of the Hajj. Pardon?
How many, like, how much time went by on Earth, like when you came back?
About 1 hour.
About 1 hour, right?
Yeah.
But did you feel you were there for quite a while? Did you feel you were there for quite a while, like?
Yes, well, it was quite an elaborate introduction. It was quite a procession of people going this way.
And they were all prophets.
Yes.
You must have been holy, lots and lots of prophets.
Yeah, I didn't count.
Do you remember every detail of it, or was it quite
It was
vague?
very, it was very sharp. Yeah, the consciousness was very sharp.
But about the
Sharper than what we're doing now.
So you saw everything in detail.
I saw the persons. I didn't see surroundings. And God showed them to me in their worldly looks, what they dressed like here in this
They all
world.
look different in their faces.
Oh yeah, they all look different. I was taken aback by Abraham's resemblance to my family. Wow, who's this guy? He looks like us. It was all in my mind, and the answer came in my mind also. This is Abraham.
But their costumes quite different from each other.
Pardon?
Their costumes quite different from each other.
Not much, no. It was very long robes and turbans. And beards.
They all looked young or older?
No, they were all
Different,
around.
you could say some looked young or some looked old.
They looked about the same age.
19.
About 40. No. It's about 40 years. I mean, if I'm asked how old do you think this guy is, I'll say 40.
Wow.
Intriguing subject, but it came up because of this, the death of the righteous, and I'm passing on to you that it's a wonderful experience.
Agar, December is going to be the 19th year of that,
Yes, December 1990. Yes.
and he thinks something is going to
Yes,
happen.
I definitely think so.
Yes,
The way this official translation is going,
after 19.
even with the editor,
Next year will be 19.
something is, even Ceausescu is dead. Something is happening at the world level. 21. Therefore you shall raise towards forgiveness from your Lord, and a paradise whose width encompasses the heaven and the earth. The word race is mild, it's too mild.
And it's just for forgiveness.
It's in other words, God is telling us, if you are righteous, heaven awaits you. You don't die, you just go there with this wonderful experience and fantastic property. The width of the heavens and the earth, it's a huge place, and you have mansions and great things. So you shall race, meaning you shall compete very hard. You shall insist, and work hard towards forgiveness from your Lord and a paradise whose width encompasses the heaven and the earth. It awaits those who believe in God and His messengers. Such is God's grace that He bestows upon whomever He wills. God is possessor of infinite grace. Allahu Dhul Fadl Al-Azim, which is a very special name, because the geometrical value of Dhul Fadl Al-Azim is the same as the number of the word Allah in the whole Quran. So we think there's something special about Dhul Fadl Al-Azim. Profound fact. Anything that happens on earth or to you has already been recorded, even before the creation. This is easy for God to do. And we're told the reason. Why is God telling us this? We're told the reason in 23. Thus you should not grieve over anything you miss, nor be proud of anything He has bestowed upon you. God does not love those who are boastful, proud. So, yes.
Key of happiness.
Exactly. Have an even key, nothing bothers you.
If you are become very happy that you gain something, far or how do you say, you will lose it.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes, exactly.
And you will become sorry as much as you became happy.
Yes.
You will pay.
Well, there's a mechanism for this. If you love anything too much, then Satan will say, aha, let me tell God that if you take this thing from him or from her, he or she will blaspheme against you.
What is too much?
Hmm?
What is too much?
If you're going to do anything to keep that,
What? Oh, you'll see.
if you do anything, you'll do anything to keep it, whatever it is.
But what about you?
Then Satan feels that if you're given a choice between this thing and God, you'll choose the thing. So if you come even close to that, Satan will make that claim, and God will grant him his wish. God will say, okay, go ahead and take it. And of course, if the person passes the test, God makes it up twice as much, manifold after that.
By turning to God
But-
and praying to God,
Right,
asking, like letting Him rule,
right.
set your path.
Remember the verses in Surah 7 where God says, people pray, please God give us a good baby. Then as soon as God gives them a good baby, they forget the prayer. The baby they become preoccupied with the baby. And the baby becomes a God. They don't do the prayer, they don't. I mean, I know people who actually did that. They become so busy with the baby. And the baby runs their life. If the baby causes people to stop going to the Quranic study or going to the Fajr prayer, then this is too much. Just to answer your question.
So when the baby comes,
But there have to be criteria. Yes. We have a child for adoption here. Yes, exactly. Yes. I have to go to the last line of verse 23 because it continues into 24. It says, God does not love those who are boastful, proud, they are stingy and enjoying the people to be stingy. If one turns away, then God is the rich, the praiseworthy. The footnote for 57:22 says we are absolutely free to side with God or with Satan. God happens to know precisely what kind of decision each of us will make. The videotape of your life from birth to death is already recorded. So it's a matter of being a submitter or an objector. Anything that happens in our life, we either submit and say, okay God, is this what you want? Each of us will make. The videotape of your life from birth to death is already recorded. So it's a matter of being a submitter or an objector. Anything that happens in our life, we either submit and say, okay God, is this what you want? I accept it cheerfully. Underline cheerfully. No matter what happens. Iron, the most useful metal. There's an iron isomer that is 57. The atomic weight is 57.
Wow.
The most useful metal. We sent our messengers supported by clear proofs, and we sent down to them the scripture and the law, that the people may uphold justice. And we sent down the iron, wherein there is strength and many benefits for the people. All this in order for God to distinguish those who would support Him and His messengers on faith. God is powerful, almighty. On faith is a very difficult word to translate. In Arabic is bilghayb. And I'm always torn between translating it as on faith or when in privacy. When in their privacy.
You don't see them.
Yes. There are people who are in this mosque and they say, we believe you're God's messenger. But they will not profess that outside. They're afraid that the people may ridicule them. They will hesitate to say it. So بالغيب applies here, is that even outside, even away from here, or in their privacy, they have no qualms or hesitation about saying, we believe Rashad Khalifa is God's messenger. And we have the evidence if you want to examine it. It's very significant that God says all this in order for God to distinguish those who would support Him and His messengers, even in their privacy. God is powerful, almighty. Because it's easy if we are here in a crowd that all of us believe in a certain way, we can profess that. It's easy because everybody around us is doing the same thing. But outside, do you maintain this belief or what?
Yeah, the on faith makes more sense than in privacy. Yeah, the privacy sounds like if you're in your own home, and it doesn't sort of make sense because you don't distinguish.
Yes.
In absence.
Yes.
Right. Even when they're not present, we won't know the absence of them.
Yes. Yes, that too. That's exactly
Because
what it
Christ
is.
can also be absent.
Right.
He's not present. How would that fit in the in like believe in God and support Him and His messengers in their absence?
In
In their
their
absence. Yeah, in
Yes,
God
the
and His
messengers
messengers'
are
absence. Like God is not never absent, but in the absence.
Like I said, when we're out of here, is this something that we maintain continuously, or is it just contingent on being
I
with
was
the
thinking,
same crowd that we believe?
like, for example, when you said about the 40, age of 40, like the first thing one should do is accept it because the messenger
Exactly.
said, okay, and then even
And then
if it
discuss
doesn't
it
make sense.
logically, intellectually.
Right. So first you accept it on faith, right?
Right.
So maybe, I mean, that could also apply, that on faith could be
Right.
applied there too, right?
Yeah, but it's a decision that the person makes.
So he makes it afterward, like first he should,
So we look at the evidence, we decide Rashad Khalifa is a messenger, is fraud, whichever, it's a decision either way. And it's one or the other. It's not, cannot this, both of them. Cannot be one of them for some time and the other one some other time.
so isn't this verse also in a sense, like when you use on faith, imply that if the messenger says something, you first accept it, and then logically, like the 40,
Yes.
first accept it on faith because you know he's the messenger. So on faith you accept it,
If you accept it, then you believe that it is true.
right?
See, there are only three choices, actually. You believe that the age of 40, this is true, this is God's truth, I believe it, or I reject it,
Right.
or I'm neutral, I have to study the evidence first.
Started on it. It may take another few years to get started.
No, but maybe some people they say for their it's not makes sense for me. It's not logical for me. Okay, but
Okay, well,
because
then show them the
messengers say-
evidence. Yes. Show them the evidence. Now, here's the evidence. Now, what is your reason for rejecting it? You have to accept it or reject it. Here's the evidence. You say this is. So the evidence is not arguable because it's all physical facts. I didn't, for example, write in the book that before I was born, Rashad 19 times. For example, when you add the verses in the surahs, it's a lot of 19. And it goes on and on. So they're all physical facts. I didn't say, in my opinion, the root word Rashad occurs in the Quran
Yeah, but
19
it
times.
happens sometimes somebody even not just some proof that you just still the knowledge is not enough and they cannot understand. But they believe because they understand the proof that for example 19 and everything. They believe you are messenger, okay? And believe this kind and what is logically is not for them. That is you trying to
That's what I'm trying to say, that they accept it, but they accept it on faith,
not
rather
on-
than and then later on, maybe the reason may come.
yeah.
They may understand it later on. But just because they don't understand it right away, they don't
What is
reject
the
it.
reason of faith? Faith also must have a reason. Why do you believe?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
Yeah, they
The
do,
reason
yeah.
must be different. For example, in Turkey, my friend didn't make research on mathematical evidence, but he learned the message and he said, this is message, the all message of messengers, and the way of, how do you say, the way of the message shows that he is messenger. And by this way, by the message, he believes.
That's unfair.
Yes.
What the message is saying, worship God alone, uphold the word of God alone, forget the dead saints and prophets.
And this kind of
That's
things,
it.
and like the Saleh business. Some people may just, because of the faith, or because of personality, and or because of the believers that around, and all these are all proofs. If people, crook people, if some person around him, how they say, get together, bad people, there are very bad community among each other, and this shows that it's not good. And all these are also evidence, different kinds of
The
evidence.
simplest form is given in the Bible as you can judge the tree by its fruit.
Yes, oh good.
Yeah.
Both ways work. Yeah? Both ways is in absent and is on faith.
Yes.
Yes.
This is a word بالغيب in Arabic. It's just I don't know exactly how to translate it. What is the best word?
This Rusul here is plural, isn't it?
Yes. Messengers.
This is what you said is so true, that I had very special experience in Turkey. That I went through the military service and I come home, that when I think that the test is over and everything's okay, my father came very heavy on me, very heavy, and
That seems to
it
be
was so
accurate.
heavy because I know the commandment says that, you know, you have to respect them. It was coming on so heavy that the phone rang. Guess who was calling? Rashad was on the phone. I burst into tears. This is God.
Yeah.
You know, when you said in absence, you know, I was like, I was getting so frustrated. He's coming, you know, I can't. He's coming on, and then all of a sudden the phone rings. My mother answers it, and it says it's for you. And I said, Alhamdulillah, what a relief!
That was the first time too.
Yes, Alhamdulillah. Then I burst into tears. You know, this is so special that, you know, that we live Quran. When you said absence, that just brought that to my, you know.
That was his lowliest point in Turkey.
But
Lowest.
This
Yeah.
thing happened to me when I was working this summer in Phoenix. I was working with these two Catholic boys, guys, and I had told them a little bit about my religion, but I just kept quiet because they're very obnoxious people. And one day, though, it got really hot, and I just started telling them all about the miracle and the religion. They were both just frustrated, and they were yelling at me, and they were like, and we had to go through files, insurance files of accidents. We had over 2,000 files. It covered the whole room. We had to go through one by one every day. And that day we hardly did any work, and we had a few files on the table. And after I started telling them about this, and they were getting frustrated, they're like, "Doesn't make sense." Then I started telling them about the 19 in our bodies. They're like, "Now you're going way too far with this." I'm like, "It's not. I'm making it up. You can go, you know, check it out." And I was saying, you know, the person in our mosque, you know, he's a messenger, and all this stuff. I was trying to tell them. And they just got really frustrated. They said, "We just believe in different things. I don't want to hear it." I said, "Fine." I said, "Listen, close the, you know, the whole thing. Do your work." The one that was giving me the most difficult, like Khalifa, he picked up a file, and it was your file. And I was like, "No, Khalifa." He's like,
Looks familiar.
"It was an accident you had in Phoenix. Other people, you had no insurance, or someone that was in the car with something had the insurance."
I didn't have insurance. The guy who hit me had insurance.
Right, and you're covered by.
I had insurance with God.
And he looked at me, he goes, and he like started reading like the address and everything. I said, "That's it." And he goes, "Do do 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 do."
Wow.
I said, "I rest my case."
Now, do you have access to that file?
No, because it's in Phoenix.
What I want you to do is get the date of that accident. Get the date of the accident. You're going to find it November 25th, 1985, which is, and the hour, 12:30 in the afternoon. That was the minute I became eligible for pension from the state of Arizona.
Wow.
And that was the last time I ever worked for this world. Yes. If you go back to that file,
It was written down on
I was
files.
told, I'm telling you, I confess, I was told in advance, you must quit. You have to quit this work. Give all the time to the message. I said, come on, how will I eat? In fact, I was given 6 weeks without pay before, about 2 months before that, just 2 months before that. Yes, and during the 6 weeks without pay, somehow my account in the bank was better than ever. I was afraid to ask them, how did this happen? And I was telling Ahsan, don't ask. In other words, yes, God was telling me, you're going to be better off devoting all your time to me alone. Okay, so if you check that file and look at the action, it was November 25th, because I have to tell you what the law is of the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona, you're eligible for pension on the 7th day after your 50th birthday.
Oh, 7th day.
The 7th day
50 plus 7.
after my birthday. Yes, 50 and 7, yes. If you work for the state more than 5 years. Oh my gosh, that was exactly 5 years. Because I started in 1985, 1980. And that was exactly 5 years. So, and that was the minute. Not the day, the minute. Because I worked half the day of Monday. So it was the minute I became eligible, and I was making a turn into my work. The accident was right at my work. The gate this at University of Arizona Agricultural Experiment Station. And I'm turning into that gate, and this guy ran red light and hit me. Put me in the hospital. Yeah, no more work. That was the last time I ever saw that place. Yeah. Funny thing how she brought this up. Yeah? Well, God is not subtle at all.
I know I didn't say anything.
God didn't wait a week or 2 days or 10 minutes. Yeah?
Like I had some friends, they still come and they say like, this is the yellow stuff. When I tell them to come by the that's enough for us. And they accept all the masters and everything. But they don't accept me. What cause do I have? Do I have to stop being with them?
No, not unless they're fighting you. Who's making the noise? Oh. If they're not fighting you, you have to go on along with them, but discuss it with them logically. Okay, now Vicky is saying that they accept the Golden Translation. Do they accept the miracle?
Yes, they do.
They accept the miracle of 19.
I appreciate Dr. Rashad who brought all of these. I appreciate from the time you met him.
Yeah.
You are great, but they don't want to accept your messages. However, I have to say, one of them once told me, like, the messenger should be something else. Like, he really gives me imagination of a person who should probably have a wing or... It doesn't look like that. So
Yeah, but you have to discuss it with them logically. Batul has a very simple question for them, which is... Yeah, I remember what she told me, but she forgot. What is? How do you prove that I'm God's messenger? You had a very simple statement that you mentioned when I was in your house last time. Why did you find the miracle of 19? How do you explain that?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The evils of their works will become obvious to them, and the very things they mocked will come back to haunt them. It will be proclaimed, today we forget you, just as you forgot the meeting of this day. Your abode is the hellfire, and you will have no helpers. 35. This is because you mocked and ridiculed God's revelations, and were preoccupied with the first life. Consequently, they will never exit therefrom, nor will they be excused. To God belongs all praise, Lord of the heavens, Lord of the earth, Lord of the universe. To Him belongs all supremacy in the heavens and the earth. He is the Almighty, most wise. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Hamim. The revelation of this scripture is from God, the Almighty, the wise. We did not create the heavens and the earth and everything between them except for a specific purpose and for a finite interim. Those who disbelieved are totally oblivious to the warnings. Say, consider the idols you set up besides God. Show me, what on earth did they create? Do they own part of the heavens? Show me any other scripture or any piece of knowledge that supports your idolatry, if you are truthful. The idols totally unaware. Who is further astray than those who idolize besides God, idols that can never respond to them until the day of resurrection, and are totally unaware of their worship? This is what most Sunnis and Shias do. The next page, the idols disown their worshippers. And when the people are summoned on the day of judgment, their idols will become their enemies and will denounce their idolatry. When our revelations were recited to them clearly, those who disbelieved said of the truth that came to them, this is obviously magic. So we're talking about idol worshippers who idolize people, because we're told in verse 6, when the people are summoned on the day of judgment, their idols will become their enemies and will denounce their idolatry. So Ali will have to denounce all the Shias, and Muhammad denounces all the Muslims. In fact, this is documented in the Quran.
Verse 5 also. Verse 5.
Yes.
The idols that can never respond to them until the day of resurrection.
Exactly.
The idols will be resurrected.
Yeah, Muhammad and Ali and Hussein cannot respond to anybody until the day.
Until the day of resurrection. Then they disown
Then they
you
disown them. Right. We never knew about you. Now, these people, these particular people, who, when our revelations were recited to them clearly, that is, worship God alone, uphold the word of God alone, the creed is La ilaha illallah, those who disbelieved say to the truth that comes to them, this is obviously magic. When they say, he fabricated this, say, if I fabricated this, then you cannot protect me from God. He is fully aware of everything you scheme. He suffices as a witness between me and you. He is the forgiver, most merciful. When I apply this to me personally, I notice always when it says say, it is already said. I always tell them, if I'm a liar, then this is my problem. What is the message? What am I telling you? I'm telling you worship God alone and uphold the word of God alone. So if I'm lying to you, this is my problem. But as far as you're concerned, you can benefit from the truth if it is truthful, and you can benefit from the message. If I'm a liar, it's my problem, not yours. Say, I am not different from other messengers. I have no idea what will happen to me or to you. I only follow what is revealed to me. I am no more than a profound warner. Say, what if it is from God and you disbelieved in it? A witness from the children of Israel has borne witness to a similar phenomenon. So, look at the footnote here. 46:10. This witness is Rabbi Judah the Pious, 11th century AD, who discovered the same 19-based mathematical code and intact fragments of the scriptures. See Appendix 1. So obviously, number 9, say here, refers to our generation. I'm not different from other messengers. I have no idea what will happen to me or to you. I only follow what is revealed to me. I'm no more than a profound warner. Say, what if it is from God and you disbelieved in it? A witness from the children of Israel has borne witness to a similar phenomenon, and he has believed when you have turned arrogant. Surely, God does not guide the wicked people. Rabbi Judah the Pious is undoubtedly a believer when you read his writings. God alone. In fact, he's a strict scripturist, just like we are. Number 11. Those who disbelieved said about those who believed, if it were anything good, they would not have preceded us to it. Because they were not guided thereby, they said, this is an old fabrication. Number 12. Before this, the book of Moses provided guidance and mercy, and this is a confirming Arabic scripture to warn those who transgress and to give good news to the righteous. Good news. Surely those who said, our Lord is God, then led a righteous life, will have no fear, nor will they grieve. Sounds familiar? Number 14. They have deserved paradise, where they abide forever, a reward for their works. Congratulations. Any questions?
Those who are Christian, not here, but when they no fear, no grief, I remember that. The question was around those who are Jewish or Christian, no fear. Okay, how about the people who do not believe you are a messenger?
They don't go ahead.
Okay, they say, well, how about this? And I
Say
told them something I'm going to make sure. I said, this is for people who
Who
didn't
don't
reach
know. Yeah.
proof. If you
If
show
these people, if they come and see the proof,
yes.
I give them the proof,
Yes.
I give them
And
the
they,
message,
they go.
and they say and they don't believe, they go to
Yeah,
hell.
yeah.
If they are believers who are included here, they will readily accept everything.
I said, for example, if now is the time of Jesus after Moses, and everybody, they don't know or they die, or they all is heaven. But if Jesus showed them the proof
Yes.
and they say no, we don't believe, they're
Go to
not.
hell.
They go.
Yeah, this is for people who don't know.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of the jungle, they don't know anything about Quran or anything else. But anytime you show them the Quran, they'll believe it. You find nothing objectionable in it. You show them any proof from God, they accept it.
Yeah.
See, God will guide them, will make them
Yeah.
believe.
And after this, alhamdulillah, they say, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate if somebody, regarding verse 10, a witness from the children of Israel has borne witness to a similar phenomenon? If people say, well, it also means that this verse also, a part of the verse also refers to Jesus, I could say, yes, it used to refer to Jesus vis-a-vis Muhammad, but now it refers to
no, actually,
bias vis-a-vis Rashad.
No, it never refers to Jesus. No, Jesus is not considered one of the children of Israel in the Quran. He's considered the vanguard of a new movement and a whole new religion.
The Quran says that.
Yes. So شهد من بني Israel. If it was Jesus, God would have said Jesus bore witness. We wouldn't call Jesus one of the children of Israel.
There has no, there are two possibilities. One is that verse had a particular relevance at the time of Muhammad and has a further deeper relevance at your time.
No.
But not this one.
It's just one of the things that were to come later, to become obvious later. A witness from among the children of Israel bore witness to something like it. But Jesus didn't bear witness to something like the Quran. It's totally different. Yeah, this is there's no question that it is Rabbi Judah the pious.
He has believed.
And right.
He has believed.
Okay, get going.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. This was an excellent brief presentation of the perpetual miracle that God sent to us, that is to be witnessed by anybody, in any place, at any time. Anybody in Tokyo, Japan can open this and witness the miracle. This mathematically coded book. This is an original idea. And I have to take you back a few years, a few centuries actually, where the realization came first that God spoke to us in mathematics. It was about 900 years ago when a Jewish rabbi discovered this number 19 in the intact remnants of the scriptures, specifically in the prayer that was given came to them through Abraham, from the son of Abraham, just like our namaz came through Abraham. What happened about 900 years ago was that the Jews in France added a short statement to their morning prayer, which was, "Blessed are those who follow the righteous path." They just added this harmless, seemingly harmless statement. Rabbi Judah the Pious, who was living at that time, just wrote a barrage of literature, 8 huge volumes, as to why this short statement will destroy the what he called divine rhythm, or the key that causes contact between us and God. And he showed that the number 19 is the basis of the scriptures, and the language of God is speaking to us, that it is the key to the Word of God. And I have it reproduced here in the appendix. Actually, Rabbi Judah the Pious, I think some of you know this, is actually mentioned in the Quran.
in Surah 46, verse 10. So I reproduced part of his writing about him on page 636 of this book. Now I'm quoting from a book entitled Studies in Jewish Mysticism. It says, the people, Jews in France, made it a custom to add in the morning prayer the words Ashrei Tenenei Torah, which means blessed are those who walk the righteous way. And our Rabbi, the pious, of blessed memory, wrote that they were completely and utterly wrong. It is all gross falsehood, because there are only 19 times, now notice the number 19, there are only 19 times that the holy name is mentioned in that portion of the morning prayer. And similarly, you find the word Elohim, which means God, 19 times in the pericope of Al Shemot. Similarly, you find that Israel were called sons 19 times, and there are many other examples. Now listen to this. All these sets of 19 are intricately intertwined, and they contain many secrets and esoteric meanings, which are contained in more than 8 large volumes. Furthermore, in this section there are 152 words. That's 19 times 8. 46:10. Is it 46:10 or 42:10? Let me see. Maybe 42:10. It is not 46:10. Yes. 46:10 I say, what if it is from God, this Quran? What if it is from God and you disbelieved in it? A witness from the children of Israel has borne witness to a similar phenomenon. And I believe that this verse refers to Rabbi Yehuda the Pious, because if you read his writing, he's really a believer. So, what I'm trying to say is that the number 19 has been always the key. Has always been the key in God's writings. And one of the strange statements of Galileo was that mathematics is the language with which God created the universe. That was a statement by Galileo. And we come to realize now that in nature, the number 19 also, which may be God's signature, is evident in God's creation. The sun, the moon, and the earth line up in the same position every 19 years. And you can see this in detail again if you go to the library and look at the Jewish calendar. In the Jewish Encyclopedia, under calendar, you'll see this, because they have to adjust the calendar once every 19 years. The human body has 209 bones, which is 19 times 11. The human fetus, it is now established that a full-term embryo is in the mother's womb 266 days, 19 times 14. And this is not 267. And you see this in the textbooks in medical schools. So, obviously, God puts His stamp on everything, including the Quran. The Quran is the only scripture that is intact. And this is where we have the system intact. As Behruz shared with you some of these phenomena. Maybe you can you sit over there, you can see. Just these numbers here would convince anybody that this is not a human-made book. This top number, I'm going to repeat because Behruz went through it a little bit too fast. This number here is the number of digits. If you write every verse in the Quran, the number of every verse. For example, the first surah is 7 verses. So you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next surah is 286 verses. So you write next to that 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 286, and so on, all the way to the end of the Quran. So we'll talk about the physical structure of this book. Every verse in the Quran, you just write the number. You end up with a long number, which we have hanging in the wall at Masjid Tucson, and the number of digits is 12,692. This number is a multiple of 19. This is the number of digits in the long number, which takes about 3 pages, printed by the computer. And the long number itself is also a multiple of 19. So this confirms the physical structure of the book. How many surahs and how many verses in every surah. This number here is the number of verses in the Quran. You just look at this book and take the first surah 7 verses, second surah 286 verses, third surah 200 verses. You add these numbers to come up with this total, 6346, which is also a multiple of 19. The number of surahs, of course, is 114, which is 19 times 6. The first verse, which is very famous, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, is 19 letters. Okay, 2698, this is the number of the word God in the Quran. The word Allah, from the beginning to the end, 2698. A multiple of 19. And considering how the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, separated in time and place, it is really incredible. In fact, when we were working on this book, we had about 6 college graduates, including 1 PhD, and we had so much difficulty just keeping track of the word God. We made so many mistakes in doing this. And the book, of course, confirms itself, because if you notice, if you open this book, any of you who has it, you'll see in English, on any page, you'll see in English that the word God is written in capital bold letters. So anyone can easily verify this. And the number of these, the word God is down written on every page. So you can look at any page and confirm that it is 6 times. This page here, page 97, has six words Allah in it. And you can do this randomly on any page and make sure that this counts are correct. And you go to the end of the book and you see that the word God is a multiple of 19, 2698. 19 times 142. This number here is the sum of all the numbers mentioned in the Quran, without repetition. There are 30 numbers mentioned in the Quran. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 99, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, no, not 700, 500, 3,000, 5,000, 50,000, and 100,000. And you add them up, you get this total, 162, 146, which is a multiple of 19. Now you notice these are physical facts. Nobody's saying, in my opinion, the total of the numbers in the Quran is 162, 140. It's a physical fact. Yes, sir.
Is Quran has only one version, or has there been different versions of Quran?
No, there's only one version.
One version. There hasn't been any contest as to the different, no denomination.
No,
there's
only one Quran. There's one Quran.
Just like in Christianity, that the
different versions of the Bible.
The Bible has different versions. That is
the King James version, and there is Martin Luther version, and so on. But the Quran is only one version. There are no differences. So this is a physical fact. It is nobody's opinion, and it's all you need to do is find numbers in the Quran and add them up. If they don't add up to a multiple of 19, then the whole thing collapses and the subject is over. But this has been in existence for 20 years now, and it's been scrutinized. This research has been scrutinized more than any research in the history of humanity. Because back home they looked at all these numbers trying to find any errors, and it's been confirmed and reconfirmed that these are physical facts. This number here is the total of the verses wherever the word God is mentioned, the word Allah is mentioned. And this is really and truly awesome. Because, again, if you have a copy of this, just open it at random anywhere and see the word God. Okay, open the page 259. So, open page 259 if you have this, and I can tell you what's in it. In page 259, you see verses 25 to 33 in Surah 14. And you notice that the word God, Allah, is mentioned in verse 25. Verse 27 has 3 of them. Verse 26 has 0. Verse 28 has 1. 29 has 0. 30 has 1 word Allah. 31 has 0. And 32 has 1. And 33 has 0. So in this, there are 3 words Allah in verse 27, but we only add 27. verse 20. So we add 25 plus 27 plus 28 plus 30 plus 32. We add only the verses wherever the word Allah is mentioned, whether it is 1 time or 10 times. And this is the total in the whole Quran. It is 118123, which is also multiple 19. So all these phenomena defy coincidence or defy human manufacture. And you immediately realize that we have in our hand God's message to you. You have full confidence. So this is the age of computers. People have been demanding tangible evidence. Now we have tangible evidence that this is God speaking to us and not any human being trying to fool us. Okay, now that the book is proven by physical evidence, we have confidence that this is God speaking to us. It is not any human being with the shortcomings of human beings. And in the book we have answers to these questions. And we know that God is speaking to us. God is telling us. He created us and He's telling us where we came from. He's telling us why we are here on this earth. And He's telling us where we go from here. And like the Quran says, it says, none can tell you this like the expert. One of the names of God, Khabir. In Arabic, none can tell you these facts like the expert. God is the supreme expert. So now I will try to share with you what God tells us about these questions. Where did we come from? Do you have some markers? I can mark the... Oh yes, thank you. Okay, why are we searching for these questions? Like where did we come from? It's, we learn from Quran that we are here, we have no recollection of our previous past. But we were all in God's kingdom. You can think of us as angels. We used to be angels in God's kingdom. So if I draw a line representing all the creatures in God's kingdom billions of years ago, and this includes you and me, billions of years ago, we exist. It's very clear in the Quran that we existed in the past. For example, in Surah 7, verse 143, God says, I gathered all of you, all the descendants of Adam, and I had you bear witness that I alone am your Lord. God tells us that. But we don't have any recollection of this. We don't remember standing before God and saying, we bear witness, you are our Lord. So the Quran teaches us we don't have any remembrance of that. And this is one of the purposes of us being here, is to come into an existence where we do not remember the past and start have a fresh start. Then we are given two messages. One message from God and one message from Satan. And we are supposed to freely make a choice. God gave us the freedom to choose. You can choose either one of them, either God's message or Satan's message. As you know, I'm going to interrupt a bit to what God is telling us in the middle of the subject. In the middle of the subject, Adam and Eve were in heaven, and God gave them a message. This is because all of us, I'm sure, know this. But God gave Adam and Eve a message. He said, you're in paradise, you can enjoy anything you want, but not this tree. Don't come close to this tree. That was God's message to Adam and Eve. And they stayed in heaven, God knows how long, maybe thousands, maybe millions of years. So, but the point is, for as long as they respected God's commandment, God's law, they stayed there. And then, most of you know, Satan went to them and said, eat from this tree. Okay, so now they have two messages. Hi Rashi, how are you? Adam and Eve were in heaven, or in paradise or heaven, the same thing, and they had a message from God telling them, do not eat from this tree, and they had a message from Satan saying, eat from this tree. For as long as they obeyed, adhered by God's message, they stayed in heaven. Once they listened to Satan, they were kicked out of them. And this is what brought us here. as a second coming to this world. Not the initial, this is not the original sin. The eating from the tree is not the original sin as believed in the previous scriptures. So, this line representing all of God's creatures, including you and me, and these creatures of God had different responsibilities, different assignments of work. And depending on their duties, they had different powers. For example, if somebody assigns to you something to do in New York, your company says you must go to New York and do something and come back. They'll give you a ticket to get on a plane, fly to New York, do the job and come back. This is some power given to you. So God's creatures had different powers. One of the most powerful creatures, not the most powerful creature, one of the powerful creatures, now we got to know as Satan, his God-given powers went to his head. He had an egotistic problem. He thought he can be a God besides God. He thought he can run a dominion besides God. And this immediately created various degrees of agreement or disagreement with Satan. So let's, just to put the matter in perspective, I'm going to put a representation of how many creatures agreed with Satan. The vast majority of God's creatures did not agree with Satan. Only a few. I'm going to represent them by this red dot. I hope you can see it back there. So the vast majority of creatures, they said, no way, Satan cannot be a God besides God. Only God can be a God. This is from a practical point of view. There's simply more to Godhood than Satan thought. And this is reflected in this world now, that Satan cannot run the world. There are many starving children, many diseases, earthquakes, cancer. All this is Satan's incompetence, reflects Satan's incompetence in this world. These creatures that did not agree with Satan are the angels. The creatures became classified. The creatures who upheld God's absolute authority were classified as angels. The creatures that rebelled and agreed with Satan were classified as, and then further classified. Let's now classify them as rebels. They do not believe in God's absolute authority. Now I'm going to take this little dot here. By the way, this little dot represents something like 1 trillion creatures. The number of God's angels is not known to anybody except God. You see this in the Quran, in Surah 74, verse 31, where God says only God knows the number of the angels. Even the angels don't know how many of them there are. As you see, this red dot representing 1 trillion creatures, and the blue line is much larger, so there's countless numbers of angels. I'm going to extend this dot here into a long line. We're still dealing with the question, where did we come from? This line represents about 1 trillion creatures. They are the creatures that agreed with Satan. And this includes you and me on this line. To different degrees. Let's say here are the least agreeable with Satan, and these are the most staunch agreeable with Satan. God gave these creatures a second chance. First of all, the angels said, since these creatures here rebelled, put them all in hell, throw them all in hell, banish them from your kingdom. And in Surah 2, verse 30, God says, no. One of the names of God is the most merciful. God wanted to give us another chance to reconsider our decision to side with Satan. In Surah 2, verse 30, God says, I know what you do not know. The angel said, throw them all in hell. And God said, I know what you do not know. What did God know that the angels didn't know? God knew that some of us, deep in our hearts, we really believed in God's absolute authority. But for some reason we were swept in the crowd and we agreed with Satan to different degrees. So, pardon? So, this line here representing the rebels, God gave him a second chance. He said, how would you like to reconsider your agreement with Satan? I'm going to give you a chance to submit outright, or you can go through an experiment where we put Satan to the test. And I used the example of, for example, Muhammad coming and saying, I can fly a plane. He's making a claim.